Am I the a-hole for not adopting my wife's child? Original post. I, 27 male, used to have a wonderful relationship with a woman I love, 26 female. However, 5 years ago, she got drunk, had a one-night stand, and got pregnant from it. It can't be mine. I can't have kids due to a horseback riding injury when I was a teen. She didn't get the guy's name, no way to find him, so he's out of the picture. My wife decided to keep the baby, and we almost went through a divorce, but couples therapy made us decide to try again. We're still in therapy now, since I still have a hard time trusting her. So, she had her son. We talked a lot about it, and I made it clear that I'm okay taking on a step-parent role, but I wasn't willing to fully be his dad. I wouldn't adopt him, but I would help raise him and get him off to college. My wife agreed to this, became a stay-at-home mom so she could take care of him with help from her parents, and I've pretty much been the fun uncle-like guy. I play with him, buy him games, try my best not to resent him, and I am in therapy for this, and mostly just stay out of the way of my wife's parenting. He even calls me uncle instead of dad. He knows I'm not his father, and is just happy to play video games with me and chill. Well, recently, my wife has started talking about me adopting him, something I'm not willing to do. I made it clear that if anything happened, he would go live with her parents, and I'd send child support. If they couldn't take him, I wouldn't put him into foster care or anything, but I also wasn't willing to take on the responsibility of being his father when I'm not. I'm happy being an uncle to another man's kid, since that's what life threw at me. This has greatly upset her, and she's trying to find a way to force me into adopting him. She's even been manipulating the poor kid, saying he should start calling me dad instead of uncle like he has his entire life, which is upsetting and confusing the poor boy. This situation has worked for the last 5 years, and I don't know why she's trying to change something that isn't broken or force me into a role I told her years ago I wasn't willing to accept, which she was fine with until just recently. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Everyone sucks here. Everything about this is pretty terrible. Her cheating, you purposefully distancing yourself from the child, who is not yours through no fault of his own. Not to mention you being the only father figure he's ever known. Dads don't need to be blood. You all sound like a-holes. Except the little one, obviously, who I just feel so sorry for. Sort yourselves out for his sake. Exactly. If OP couldn't grow past his resentment of the kid not being his, then he never should have agreed to stay in the relationship. It's not fair to the child. Either he needs to be all in or out. You may want to check with an attorney. Regardless of whether or not he is your biological child, you have been raising and supporting him. Even if you don't adopt him, he's likely yours in the eyes of the court. That said, not the a-hole. You had an agreement. You supported her decision to keep the baby. You worked through her infidelity. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. I have checked with 2 lawyers. One actually my brother-in-law and one an outside party. I was not put on the birth certificate and was actually told by both that the fact that he wasn't mine was grounds for a quick divorce, no matter how long it's been. If we divorced tomorrow, I would basically be walking away free. My brother-in-law was disgusted with his sister when he found out and was even the one to suggest I get the divorce. My other lawyer is much more neutral about it all, so I trust what he says. Not the a-hole. Once she cheated on you, she lost the right to ask anything of you. You set boundaries that she agreed to, and now she pulled the child into this to try to get her way? You worked through divorce once, but something like confusing the kid by making him call you dad when you've been uncle all his life would be a deal breaker for me. You're gonna have to sit her down and let her know that if she's going back on her word, she's making your previous decision to divorce come back to light. Not the a-hole otherwise. Now for the update. After reading everything, I told my wife I was leaving and pursuing that divorce. I think I've been ready to do so for a while, but just needed the push. This has led to a complete meltdown, but I stayed firm, packed everything up, and moved in with my brother across town. I have already contacted the landlord to tell him I would pay for 2 more months' rent. After that, everything needs to be switched to her. Talking to my lawyer, it was verified that, due to the process I went through after the birth to establish I wasn't the father, I would not have to pay child support or alimony, which is something very rare and uncommon anyway where I live. He's already working on the paperwork. No idea when it'll all happen, but once it does, I'll cut full contact. My wife has tried to call and text multiple times, but I've refused to talk. Next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for wanting to break up with my girlfriend when she said she wanted to keep things casual 8 months ago and now wants to move in with her kids? Original post. I, 34 male, have been seeing this woman, 41 female, for the past 8 months or so now. She was just getting out of a messy divorce and wanted something casual and fun. I told her I wasn't looking for anything serious either and made clear I never wanted kids because I knew she had 2 daughters in high school. We've had effortless chemistry, but we've never gotten more serious over the time of our relationship. A few days ago, she brought up the idea of her and her kids moving into my place. I figured because I live on the beach, she just wanted an upgraded lifestyle, but then she brought up how the town I live in has a much better public school system than the one she's living in now. She's super sweet, and I've met her daughters and they seem very nice, but I'm like, WTF? How do we go from a casual relationship to moving in and me becoming a stepdad overnight? I don't see a path that involves me saying how I felt and her just accepting things how they are. I feel like if a woman wants to move in with you, you're beyond the casual stage. She's even joked a couple times recently about how she knows she can't give me anything I don't already have, but she can always give me a cute baby. Shaking my head. Like I said, she's really nice, but this is just way too much all at once. Now for the comments before reading the update. Time to have a serious conversation. You two are clearly not on the same page regarding the relationship. Agreed. No point dragging things out when it's clear they need to communicate and figure out where they stand. Dragging it out just builds resentment. Clear talk now saves everyone from bigger mess later. Not the a-hole. Quite frankly, I really worry about a woman who is newly divorced and is already at the stage where she wants to move her 2 minor children into the home of a man she's not in a committed long-term relationship with. You need to have a very frank and an open discussion, and quite frankly, you probably should end the relationship at this point. If I were you, I would be very mindful of your birth control going forward, because this sounds like she may try to baby trap you. Exactly. Even if she's the best girlfriend in the world, she's a crappy parent, and that should be a huge red flag. Yep, get out before she legit baby traps you. The comments about could give you a cute baby are a warning. Treat them like the red flag they are. The situationship has run its course, and it's time to move on if you don't want something serious with her, before she gives you an 18-year commitment. Now for the update. Just want to start off by saying I appreciate all the advice and support from my last post. I told the woman that I was seeing that I couldn't continue on with her, and that the idea of her moving in with her teenage daughters after 8 months of casual dating was too much too soon. She was mad and went on and on about how I wasn't a good guy and that I used her and all that. I just hung up after a while and blocked her. On one hand, I feel like an a-hole for just dumping her out of the blue, from her perspective, but I honestly feel relieved. I think she was hoping I'd get her pregnant. After thinking about it more, I realized how could I possibly be with someone long-term who wanted to move in with me with her 2 teenage daughters, after a casual relationship for 8 months. I met her daughters in passing just once, and she wants to move them in with us? I think I dodged a bullet but still feel a bit bad. She's gorgeous and fun, but a bit dangerous too, I suspect, LOL. Seems like you dodged a bullet. No kidding. That kind of pressure after saying she wanted to keep it casual is a huge red flag. OP definitely made the right call stepping away before it got even messier. Sounds like she was looking for a man to pay her bills and play daddy, but doesn't want the commitment of a real relationship. You wanted to bang a hot chick casually. I'm not sure how you'd think that would end well, honestly. She's clearly not a good mother if she operates like this. Women don't always get called out for being homosexual the way men do, but moving 2 teen girls in with someone as unvetted as an 8-month casual relationship? They're just collateral damage in her dating wake, aren't they? Exactly. If the roles were reversed, people would be sounding every alarm. Her poor judgment put her kids in a risky situation. They deserve better than to be afterthoughts in her dating life. Well done. It was not out of the blue. You never need a reason to end a relationship. But as you keep saying, this relationship was casual, and you told her precisely why it would not work. Her judgment is trash. You should never move your children into a home with a man they do not know after 8 months. You may be a good guy, but a good mother would never take that sort of chance. Anything could happen to her girls. I'm willing to bet she's losing her place or has some financial difficulties happening and was looking for a way out. Or she is just crazy. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not babysitting so my mom can go on dates with her fiancé? My parents divorced when I, 16 male, was 1, and I live with my dad and see my mom every other weekend. Why? Because she moved too far for them to share custody equally, so dad got custody since he was settled and wasn't moving for unstable reasons. Mom followed a guy to another town, a guy she wasn't even dating seriously or for long, and she moved again before I was 5 for another guy. My relationship with mom is kinda strained. Sometimes she makes an effort to actually be a mom, other than every other week, but it feels like she never cared as much about me as she did the guys she's dated. Some of those guys I stayed with when I'd go to mom's for a weekend. Others I never met, but she talked about them all the time. 4 years ago, she started seeing this guy called Clay, and now they're engaged and living together. When I spend weekends at my mom's house, I sleep in the basement on the couch because Clay's got 4 kids, and I didn't want to share a room with his sons, who are really young. It bothers my mom and Clay that I wasn't more open to being a part of the family, and mom and I fight about it at least once every 2 or 3 months when I'm there. She doesn't get why I'm not more invested. I refuse to spell it out for her. Now we're fighting about babysitting. Since she and Clay live together now, they feel like I should babysit so they can go on dates, and I refuse. Doesn't matter if I'm there or with dad, she expects any weekend they want to do something that I will drop whatever and babysit. When I'm at her house, I avoid it by staying out late exploring where she lives and going to the gaming store for hours to look around. When I'm with dad, it's easier to just say no, and she can't make dad send me over to her to babysit. And it makes him mad that she expects me to drive almost 3 hours each way to babysit for her whenever she feels like it. My mom said I need to accept that Clay and his kids are going to be my family, and I should try to get to know them. She doesn't realize that once my 18th birthday comes, she won't even be my family anymore, and I plan to go no contact. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Tell your mom that Clay is the person here responsible for childcare. He is nothing to you, and you owe him nothing. If Clay wants to go on dates, he should look into care.com. I mean, he got babysitters before, so I don't even get why they'd be so unwilling to keep doing that. I'm not here to be free child care for them, and he has his own family to send them to if he wants free or cheap. Because they don't want to pay for child care. They expect you to provide it willingly and for free. Not the a-hole. No contact. You're not obligated to keep people in your life who repeatedly show that your needs, boundaries, and feelings don't matter. You're allowed to protect yourself. But also, if there's any part of you that wants something more from your mom, closure, peace, clarity, anything, it might be worth saying something before you go no contact. Not for her, but for you, so you're not left holding resentment you never got to voice out. Hope I could help. Thanks for the advice. I don't think I have anything I really need to say to her. A few years ago, I would have had more to get off my chest. But dad got me therapy, so I didn't need to say it directly to her anymore. Are you not legally able to say where you want to live? If she pushes, tell her you'll go in front of a judge and tell them why you don't want to be there. I believe in most places, at your age, you would have a say. Last story. Am I the a-hole if I left my husband at the ER overnight? I, 29 female, and my husband, 31 male, were visiting his family in another state for a cousin's wedding. We've been married 3 years, no kids yet. My husband likes to drink, and at the reception, he definitely overdid it, taking shots with his cousins and ignoring the fact I asked him to slow down because we had to drive back to our Airbnb. Long story short, he ended up tripping over the curb outside the venue while we were waiting for our Uber and cut his forehead pretty badly. He was super drunk, belligerent, cussing at the paramedics, and refusing stitches. At the hospital, he kept yelling at nurses and trying to take off his IV, so security had to come in. They eventually sedated him so they could clean him up. At that point, it was already 2 a.m., and I was exhausted, embarrassed, and honestly mad. I asked the nurse if I could leave since they were admitting him overnight for observation, and she said yes. I called an Uber, went back to the Airbnb, showered, and went to bed. His mom and sister started blowing up my phone around 7 a.m., calling me heartless for leaving him alone, and saying I should have stayed in case something happened. He's fine now, just has a bandage on his forehead and a big hangover, but everyone's treating me like the villain. Am I the a-hole for leaving him there overnight instead of staying with him in the hospital? How did they find out? Did he call them playing the victim? Not the a-hole. Yeah, he called them the next morning all mopey. Didn't mention the yelling at nurses part either. Don't have kids with this man. I married someone like this, and they still overdo it, and it means I can't trust them overnight with the kids. My friend married someone like this, and now she's scared to divorce him because it's so hard to get full custody. And he's a danger to her kids overnight, so she chooses to stay to protect her kids. It's sad and frustrating. People can drink too much without turning into a-holes. If he can't, he should forego overindulging in the future. You're helping him figure out what he should have realized himself by now, not the a-hole. I'm hoping this is a wake-up call for him too. Thanks. Considering he called his family to complain about you leaving the hospital, I don't think it will be. Exactly. If it was a wake-up call, he would have been very embarrassed and mortified about his behavior and sincerely apologized, instead of calling mommy to play the victim. Also, another big red flag is that his family saw nothing wrong with his behavior. Not the a-hole. I think probably most women would go home at that point. I might also be planning a conversation about alcohol. I always tell him to slow down when he drinks, but he never listens. I was done babysitting that night. Am I the a-hole for not making my wife choose between me and her affair partner? As soon as I found out, I moved out and filed for divorce. Counseling is not on the table. An open relationship is out. I'm not interested in having anything to do with her again. She tried saying that if I ask, she would choose me. Gross. I don't want her. Some of our friends think I should have fought for our marriage, so I offered to sleep with them or their wives to see how they feel about the situation then. No one has taken me up on my kind and Christian offer. I'm paying my half of the lease on the apartment. There are 4 months left. In the meantime, I'm going to work and spending my time off at all-inclusive resorts. It's cheaper than getting an apartment for myself. Am I the a-hole for not trying to save our marriage? Now for the top comments. She tried saying that if I ask, she would choose me. You did ask her at your wedding. Wild of her to say that. Not the a-hole. She didn't stay true to her vows. Why should he stay true to his? Since the marriage vow has already been broken, he is free to divorce her. She said she would choose him, but didn't choose him when she was sleeping with the other guy. What right does she have to choose him now? Even Jesus said you can divorce a cheating spouse. Not the a-hole. If she was going to choose you, she shouldn't have had an affair in the first place. I like her response to the friends too. Right, like how could they deny such a kind and Christian offer like that? Lol. At least the friends would know who their partners would be sleeping with. Definitely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You pleading and begging, please stop cheating on me. Please, please, choose me, is emasculatingly humiliating. Not to mention, she already chose, and chose this other person. You made a correct move. She would have chosen you to be her doormat, as she continued to cheat whenever the heck she felt like it. You can sleep well tonight knowing that you improved your life, and the best is yet to come. You'll eventually meet someone who deserves you. I'm glad to see someone with some damn self-respect. The pick-me game is pathetic. So many of those posts. It makes me sick. Next story. Am I the a-hole for letting my ex-girlfriend have gonorrhea for a year? About 18 months ago, I, 31 male at a time, began dating a woman, Beth, 24 at a time. Beth and I had a lot in common, and we met fairly often. I've always taken my sexual health very seriously, and early in our relationship, I demanded we have full STI panels done. Beth was fully on board with this, and we went and got tested together. We were able to show clean tests to each other, and since Beth was on the pill, our intercourse was all done and protected. About 5 months into our relationship, Beth went on a 3-week vacation in France. She came home talking about how she had had a wonderful time, showing me pictures and stories. On our first night back, having had 3 weeks without sex, we naturally had it a few times. 2 days after that, I had extreme pain during urination and discharge from my member. I honestly had no idea what was going on, so I went to a urologist who immediately told me that I must have a bacterial infection. He asked if I had been exposed to any STIs, to which I responded no, I hadn't. He then said for precautionary measures, he'd give me preemptive treatment for bacterial STIs while waiting for my lab results. A few days later, my lab results came back. By the time, my symptoms had entirely disappeared. I went to the doctor's office, and he explained that I had gonorrhea. I was stunned because Beth was my only partner, which meant one thing. She had cheated on me, probably in Europe. At this point, I ghosted Beth. Blocked her on social media, phone number blocked. I assumed she'd try to reach out in some way, but she never came to my house to see me. I figured that was the end of it and lived my life as normal for the next year. Well, yesterday I got a visit at my front door. It was Beth. She broke down, telling me that she had exposed me to an STI and that if I hadn't already, I should get tested. I explained that I already knew, and that's kind of why I ghosted her. Beth was stunned for a second and then shrieked at me, "Why the hell didn't you tell me?" Apparently, having gonorrhea for a year wreaked havoc on her reproductive system, and she may be completely infertile now. She always wanted to have children. I'm conflicted now about if what I did was a-hole-ish. At the time, I was so depressed that I just couldn't bring myself to talk to her about it. You know, normally F around and find out isn't quite so literal. My ex found someone and banged some random dude off Tinder a week after she broke up with me. Called me, asked if I gave her chlamydia, told her no, got tested anyway and sent the results. It was negative. And she had the nerve to blame me, that it was my fault she went out and raw dogged some guy from Tinder. She also effed around and found out quite literally. If it were me, I would have communicated a diagnosis and then ghosted. However, I don't care how any of you spin it. OP cannot be blamed for the actions of the ex. Asymptomatic or not, sexually active adults should be tested regularly. It's been a year, so that means neither her nor any of her other partners have been tested in that time. Not to mention, she chose to sleep with a stranger unprotected and didn't get tested and exposed him to the STD in the first place. It's likely not the first time she's done it either. We just went through a freaking pandemic, and no one learned a damn thing about protecting each other and caring for the public at large. Humanity's cooked. She knew she had unprotected sex and was completely irresponsible by putting your health at risk. She cheated and then infected you with some other guy's gonorrhea. How vile is that? If she was so concerned about her reproductive health, then she should have been getting tested regularly. How many other guys did she infect after you, I wonder? This is a majorly harsh life lesson for her, if she truly is infertile now. But she did this to herself, not the a-hole. Exactly this. But I have to add, if she was so concerned about her reproductive health, she would have used protection when sleeping with random people in Europe. But I like to believe that some things happen for a reason, like breaking up a relationship between a cheater and a good responsible man. Glad OP took his symptoms seriously and got it treated. Next story. Am I the a-hole for accidentally raising my voice at my wife and throwing away her dishes and clothes because she won't wash them, just buy new ones? I, 28 male, have been married to my wife, female 30, for 2 years now, together for 5. We were going to start trying for a baby, but that got put on hold and might not happen anymore. My wife and I both work, and we make about the same amount and work about the same amount of hours. My wife and I originally had a chore system set up, where we just rock, paper, scissor the calendar for our days off. We got a pretty fair cut, I want to say, but she did get more dishes days. I got more, if not all, the laundry. My wife hates washing dishes. She hates it with such a passion that she sometimes just shuts down and cries when she sees them in the sink. Before, when I caught her crying, I immediately went to help her, switched chores for the day, calm her down, and then it was fine. But because I was doing this, I noticed that she was crying on purpose, so I washed the dishes. I knew she was faking it, because the second I took over, her tears stopped, and she'd go do something fun that she liked without a care in the world, laughing and smiling. No wind down like before. Because of this, we changed our dishes to whoever makes the dish washes it, like children with the exception of cooking. Whoever cooked doesn't have to wash the pots and pans because they put all the work in for dinner. This was also her suggestion, which I was more than okay with. This was working out for a little while, until I noticed that my wife made a lot more dishes than me and just didn't want to wash them. I asked her when she planned on washing dishes after I made dinner at her request, and she blew up on me, telling me to quite literally F off. I did as she said, but left the dishes. The next day, she asked me why the dishes weren't done, and I told her because she didn't do them. This started a fight, and I washed them, but I wasn't happy. I do most if not all of the laundry because she just won't anymore, and I refuse to wear dirty clothes. The only thing she has to do with the laundry is put it in the basket. That's it. We have a basket for darks, colors, and whites. She insists on her own basket for underwear and whatnot, so that's its own thing and I hand wash it. She's been not putting her clothes in the basket. At first, I picked up all of her clothes and washed them because it was no big deal. But when I watched her take her clothes off and just leave them on the floor because I always pick it up, I chose to leave her clothes there. She asked me why her clothes weren't done. I said because she didn't put them away and she blew up on me. Same story. Recently, this all came to a head with all the fighting. My wife has been getting lazier and lazier to push back because of our fights. And at first, I was doing all of her chores on top of working. But I had a little moment of, why am I even doing this? And just stopped. The dishes piled, her clothes were dirty, crumbs were everywhere on her days. On my days, everything was spick and span. She decided that she's going to just start buying more dishes and clothes to combat not doing her part. I cannot tell you how frustrated this made me. She was buying plastic spoons and forks, paper plates, Walmart t-shirts, and whatever other cheap alternative to the nice ones she has at home. I just decided to start tossing them. When she noticed that I was tossing her cheap alternatives, she blew up at me again. And for the first time since we've been together, I raised my voice. My voice is deep and I'm a big man, so this scared her, which I regretted. I immediately lowered my tone and told her that she just isn't doing her part and that she's wasting money buying useless things when all she has to do is just clean up after herself and put clothes in a basket. She cried, and despite how many times I apologized, she told me that she doesn't feel safe with me and that maybe we're better off divorcing. This shattered me. She's been cold toward me, sleeping on the couch, and playing domestic violence signs videos out loud. It's such a low blow. The videos usually talk about yelling, throwing away items, control, emotional abuse, and signs that they're going to get physical. I don't think I'm wrong for what I did, but this is really wearing me down, and I've been getting some texts here and there from our families calling me an a-hole, an abuser for throwing away her things and yelling at her, and that she needs to divorce me. The yelling was an accident. No one has wanted to hear what fully happened, and it's making me feel alone and a bit crazy. My friends are either staying out of it or are on her side if they're women. I've been losing friends. I feel like an a-hole now. Am I the a-hole? All I wanted was for her to clean up after herself. I'd never hurt her and I've never yelled at her before, which I do regret. I didn't mean to scare her. I was just beyond frustrated because this has been building for months. I get that it was probably immature to throw away the disposables and that I should have just cleaned up after her, but I was just frustrated. Now for the top comments. It's not too soon to admit that she's not the best partner for you. If what you write is completely accurate, then it's you who is in an abusive relationship and should exit. Opie didn't ask for this advice, but I think he needs it. Please, please do not get this woman pregnant. Get out and buy what you need, and use them to make sure this doesn't happen. Do not rely on her to manage birth control. Stop having sex with this woman immediately. Move out and move on. I'm honestly a little frustrated with the OP that he doesn't done this already. Crazy train. This, OP, if you think she will ever get up from a sound sleep at 2 a.m. with a baby cries, you are sorely mistaken. You and you alone will have sleepless nights for the next 1 to 3 years plus. If you get her pregnant, run while you can. Lord, just divorce her. She sounds like a 12-year-old. Now she's playing domestic violence victim because you yelled once? Get out of there and find an adult to share your life with. Seriously, she seems manipulative, unstable, dishonest, and just gross. I do not understand why OP would stay. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for letting my ex's mom into my book club and making his fiancé feel dumb? I, 28 female, dated Jim, 29 male, fake name, when I was 24. We separated when I was 25, and I haven't talked to him much after that. But I still sometimes speak to his parents, especially his mom, whom I have even introduced my father-in-law to, as they both love gardening. Now, I've been running a small book club for my uni days, with just a couple of lovely women, and we gather in my home library and talk about books in witchy or historical fiction. We also talk about gardening and old folk tales, and I just consider it a very fulfilling hobby. Jim's mom, let's call her Amy, asked me last month if she could join my book club, as my father-in-law had mentioned it to her when they were chatting at the nursery. She thought it sounded great, and I said yes, and I didn't think Jim would mind. Also, it wasn't his business. Amy then joined one session and gushed about it to her husband, who mentioned it to Jim. Now, the problem started there. I later learned that Jim's parents are not fond of his fiancée Beatrice, 30 female. Jim's dad thinks Beatrice has nothing in common with her family. The three of them are huge readers, and thinks that Beatrice is shallow, as she works with makeup and clothes. She's a boutique buyer. Plus, the reason I interacted less with Jim and his parents following our breakup is that Jim dumped me for Beatrice. And even though I'm married and they are somewhat friends with my father-in-law, Jim's parents think Beatrice is not right for their intellectual son. Apparently, at some family dinner, Jim's parents kept on speaking over Beatrice and mentioning how well I had been doing. And Amy had been talking about what books the book club had recommended. And I guess Jim's dad had made a comment on how he wished he had a daughter to talk about books to, and that had hurt Beatrice. Jim later called me and told me about all of this, and that me letting his mom in my club has only given his parents more ammo to hurt Beatrice. I apologized, as I knew none of this. I later asked Amy to not talk about anything book club related outside. I made up a lie about how we pretended to be a coven and can't discuss these things with the outside world, even though it felt awkward and childish. I thought that would be it. Except, Beatrice and one of her friends have made scathing posts on Facebook and Instagram, and even tagged my father-in-law in one of them, and how snobbish and mean-minded bookish women try to take other women's men because they can only read and act smart. Jim then again called me and said that Jim's mom had started a huge fight over it, and she had taken back the jewelry she had given to Beatrice for the wedding. I was a bit shocked, as I rarely spoke to Jim after our breakup, and only interacted with his parents when I ran into them, as we live in a small town. But he sounded and acted like I was the reason his family was going through a spat. My husband and father-in-law are saying that Beatrice was lucky that I didn't think of retaliating, and that I was not in the wrong. But I am starting to feel guilty, and I need a second opinion. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Many people are asking, so yes, Jim did sort of cheat on me with Beatrice. He admitted to having an emotional affair with Beatrice and dumped me. I later heard that his parents did not take it well. Not a-hole. Jim's parents have been a-holes, and Beatrice's reaction is pathetic, but none of this is because of you. Just stay completely out of it, and tell Jim to deal with his parents in a relationship without involving you. This comment right here. Be a man and deal with your situation, but calling me to complain isn't going to change anything. Not a-hole. Stay out of their drama. Not your circus, not your monkeys. You can be friends with his mother. It sounds like she enjoys you and your book club. Jim is projecting his issues with Beatrice onto you. It has nothing to do with you. She made an immature attack-filled post against his own mother's interests, tagged her future father-in-law, and created her own drama. Her actions caused mother-in-law to take her jewelry back, and good for her. Why give jewelry and your blessing to a petty witch who likes to manufacture drama and force people into it? I would block Jim. He can have his prize Beatrice, and you can continue to have a relationship with his mom who values and appreciates you. Yeah, she could have gushed about you less to spare Beatrice, but Beatrice's behavior caused this whole situation. And Jim defending her and blaming you shows they're meant for each other. Perpetual victims shifting blame to others, instead of owning their own feelings and behaviors. I would consider that relationship lucky. You got the best part of it, mother-in-law's friendship. Not a-hole, block Jim. Let Beatrice alienate herself from her future in-laws with her own actions. Seems she wants the drama, posting her rants publicly and tagging people. Ridiculous. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's affair baby's family to either come get the kid or I'm calling CPS? My female 53, soon-to-be ex-husband Roger, 47, whom I forgave for his affair, came home with a baby 4 months ago. His girlfriend, 22, could not handle it anymore and brought the baby to him at work and left. To the best of his knowledge, she is in Spain now. I allowed him to stay so long as I didn't have to do anything. Anything. Well, about a month ago, Roger had a heart attack. It didn't kill him, more's the pity, but he is very weak and incapable of doing anything for himself. Since he isn't up and about, he cannot care for his child. He also cannot drop off and pick up his son at daycare. I have been helping, but I'm done. My kids are full grown. I shouldn't be having grandkids anytime soon. I do not have any desire to care for a baby. I told Roger that I want a divorce, and I contacted the mother's parents. I know the father through friends. I said they had until Friday to come get their grandchild, or I was calling Child Protective Services. They just left with a baby, but they scolded me for being so cold towards a baby that had done me no harm. I view that child differently. Roger is recovering and I will be moving out. The house is in his name, but I have never contributed to it. I have the equivalent of 22 years of rent and interest put away. And as per our prenup, my savings are my own. I work, and I don't need anything out of this marriage except myself. My kids tried telling me to stay and help their father. I said that they were welcome to come over and help him with cleaning himself and the baby. Both declined what I've felt was a fair offer. I do not feel that I'm acting badly. However, Roger, our children, his child's family, and a few mutual friends think I am. Perhaps writing this out and seeing the responses will give me clarity. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. The child was not your responsibility. Yes, it was innocent, but you're literally not responsible for raising it. You should have divorced Roger long ago. And God forbid something happens. I literally cannot make any decisions regarding medical care or anything. Not a-hole. If you're the only one dealing with this mess Roger created, nobody gets a say but you. Your kids don't want to help. Roger can't help. This child isn't your problem nor responsibility, unless you make the child your problem or responsibility. The child may be innocent, but you are too. You didn't ask Roger to cheat on you and get another woman pregnant. You didn't ask to take care of an affair baby. Good point. The baby is completely innocent, but so is Opie, and she didn't mistreat the baby. She just refused to take care of it. Better to hand him off to his family than keep him there when you're indifferent to him. Not a-hole. Basically, everybody's trying to dump their responsibility on you. The baby should be with family. You're not cold to not want to care. It's weird they wouldn't want to take the kid in anyway. Poor child. Your grown kids can take care of their dad. When he cheated, your relationship ended, and he's not your problem anymore. The grown kids can also take their half-brother in. Also, they're the ones blood related to the baby, not her. Absolutely no obligation there either. If my dad cheated on my mom and was left with a baby, I'd cut ties too. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I was not going to walk her down the aisle or attend her wedding after she went years of no contact with me? I, 45 male, divorced my ex-wife, 45 female, many years ago after she had an affair. She's now married to her affair partner. We also had a daughter who was very rebellious. She pretty much hated me and said her mom deserved much better than me. Yes, for a year, we did struggle financially because money was tight. When her mom got with her affair partner, my daughter, who was 14 at the time, said many horrible things, like how the affair was exactly what I deserved and a lot of stuff like it. Regardless, I understood my daughter was going through her teenage rebellious phase, so I just accepted those words. However, my daughter always said that she would prove she would succeed in life without me, and after graduating high school, she pretty much went no contact with me. I tried to contact her, but she blocked my number. It hurt me a lot. Well, I moved on, because there was nothing much else I could do. I moved states to where my sister lives, focused on my career, and I'm financially well off now. I am single by choice, and I'm enjoying my life so far. It's fun to hang out with friends. My family and I have a peace of mind now. A couple weeks ago, my daughter called me. It was the first time in years we had spoken, and I could sense she was nervous. I told her I was all right, and she broke down in tears. She apologized for everything and we caught up on life. She told me she really wished she could make up how terribly she had behaved in her childhood, but I told her it was okay and everyone goes through a tough phase in childhood. She then told me that she was getting married next year and that it would mean the world to her if I could walk her down the aisle and be there at her wedding. However, where I was at in my life, I just didn't have the emotional bandwidth to add my daughter in my life again, after she went years of no contact with me. So I told her up front that I will always love her, but that I would not attend her wedding or walk her down the aisle. I told her she would always be welcome in my house, but that I have my own life now, and emotionally, it was hard for me to feel much for her. She broke down in tears again and apologized again how everything that happened, and I told her it was alright, and that there was no reason to apologize. We then spoke some more. Am I the a-hole? Not a-hole. If she's sincere, she'll keep reaching out. If it was for show or for money, she will leave you again. See where you're at in a year and attend if you feel she's sincere. Wonder where stepdad is in all this. Probably wanting someone else to pay for the wedding. Not a-hole. As the saying goes, trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy, or something along those lines. The fact that she wanted to reconcile is one thing. I don't think you're wrong for saying what you said. She might actually show true remorse, or something occurred that made her feel that way. Either way, you're not wrong for your feelings. In my native language, that saying goes as, trust comes by foot and leaves by horse. Keep talking to her. Whether or not you walk her down the aisle, you might still find a way back into each other's lives. Just keep those lines of communication open. Waiting until after the wedding would surely clarify exactly what the daughter wants, while insulating OP from further hurt. Years left to reconnect, so I hurry. Why put on a show after being treated so poorly? Waiting is far more pragmatic, and if there's ulterior motives like money, the truth will out sooner. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my boyfriend and his daughter out because of how his daughter acts when she's on her period? My boyfriend of 2 years has an 11-year-old daughter that just started her first ever menstrual cycle 3 days ago. He has full custody of her, and they started making transitions to move in with me and my 8-year-old son about 2 weeks ago. Up until this point, everything was going fairly well. The kids got along and I thought Diane was a nice kid. Anyways, she walks out of her bedroom 3 days ago and tells me she thinks she started her period and was asking me the general questions on how to wear a pad, what she can/can't do, etc. All is well. I let her stay home from school after calling my boyfriend at work to confirm plans and give him the rundown. She was crampy. I work from home, so it was no issue. All day she interrupted my business calls to talk about her period. It was annoying, but I just dealt with it because it's her first menstrual, so obviously there's going to be a lot of questions. This wasn't even a problem. It was what followed it. She was in a great mood all day. But as soon as my boyfriend and my son got home from work, my home turned into a war zone. My son asked if she wanted to play with him and just screamed in his face, "I'm on my period," and literally slammed him out of her doorway. He went flying, hit the wall, bruised his shoulder, and hit his head off the door frame. My boyfriend went to talk to her and she starts crying. "I'm on my period. I don't want him near me." He gave her a pass for her behavior, which already ticked me off. The next day we planned a beach day, like a week ago planned it. Diane starts flipping out to a point of full tantrum, screaming at me and my boyfriend, telling us that no, we would not still be going to the beach because she's on her period and she can't swim, and since she can't, none of us can, and she doesn't care if that bothers us. My boyfriend cancels the trip, or tried. I told him I was still bringing my kid regardless. We get back home at 3 p.m. When I left, I had a pot of chili in the slow cooker for dinner. I find half the pot gone. Diane had been eating out of the slow cooker. My boyfriend told me that Diane said the only thing she wanted was chili, and that since she was on her period, he had to let her. He listened to her. There wasn't enough to feed everyone now. We sent the kids to bed at 8 p.m. She comes out at 9, telling her father that she needed ice cream or she was going to snap. He originally said no. She starts tweaking out, crying, screaming, wakes up my son. He ends up going and getting her the freaking ice cream instead of being a parent and nipping that nonsense in the bud. Then this morning, my boyfriend tells her she can stay home from school again because she's still on her period. I tell him no. I'm working today and she interrupted me all day on my last work day. She starts flipping out, screaming at me that I'm not doing anything to make her comfortable when that's what she needs right now. My boyfriend sides with her. It's her first period. We need to learn to navigate it. I told him again that she was not staying here today. He gets angry with me and says I'm making his life harder than it has to be. His kid is still screaming at me. So I snapped and told them to pack all their stuff and leave, and that I was freaking done. Said that I'm glad she started her period so soon into moving in, so that I could get a proper assessment of how it would be full time. And I would be damned if I put up with this nonsense every month. They both immediately calm down. She starts crying, saying she was just trying to make me understand. He's telling me I'm being ridiculous. I stood firm, however, and told them to get out. They are now gone and my house is peaceful. I don't want them back here. My boyfriend has been blowing my phone up since, telling me this is just a bump in the road. But I have never been so disgusted by anyone in my entire life. Am I the a-hole for not letting them return and telling him I'm done? I did speak to her about her aggression yesterday. I told her it wasn't okay to put her hands on people, to scream in my face, to demand we cater to her and break things. She says, I'm on my period. Nothing I do right now can be held against me because I have no control. Which is enough to prove to me that she does have control. She's using this as an excuse. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I think this is not just her period, but signs of a much bigger problem, where she's manipulative AF and your boyfriend always gives in to her when she acts badly instead of being a parent and putting a stop to the behavior. And he is also showing you that he will always take her side over you no matter how bad her behavior is. She's also going to bully your son. He deserves to have a peaceful and safe home and not to have to live with a bully. Living with them will be hell if you let them stay. You have the opportunity in this moment to dodge the bullet. Not the a-hole, and I agree. This behavior seems wholesale manipulative. Hormonal or not, physically body checking your son and then claiming you can't hold me accountable because of a bodily function is not okay and needs to be stamped out yesterday. Also note that when she realized you were serious about consequences, she immediately realized she'd gone too far and tried to backtrack while blaming you with, I'm just trying to make you understand. Out of curiosity, where could she have seen this type of behavior? Because honestly, this sounds like she saw it in some movie or whatever and is exaggerating hard. Not the a-hole for needing space, but please get your boyfriend to figure out if she's actually nuts, or just acts like this because she thinks that's how girls on their period should act. Literally anywhere, none of her friends have started, but her dad gives her a free range of YouTube and TikTok. She's not allowed to post anything, but she can view whatever she wants. I've tried talking to him about that. I don't think kids should be in social media, but he was never receptive. Free range of YouTube and TikTok. Well, problem identified. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I would rather have her sister live in our house than her? I, 35 male, and my wife, 35 female, have been married for 6 years. Some background. 7 months ago, my wife gave birth to our daughter. I'll call her Sadie. Ever since my wife gave birth, she has been getting increasingly rude and refuses to do any work around the house and says she's still healing from giving birth, even though she always goes out with her friends. 3 months ago, my wife's sister Hannah, 25 female, called my wife and asked her if she could temporarily move in with us. She lived in a crappy apartment building, and tenants recently had to leave due to the unsafe conditions. Hannah didn't have enough to get another place right away, hence her asking. My wife seemed very eager to let Hannah move in, despite always claiming they never get along. They came to the agreement that she would help with Sadie in exchange for staying with us rent-free so she could save up for a deposit on a proper apartment. Everything was fine at first. Hannah has ADHD and took a week to adjust to living with us. During that week, she did all the chores my wife has been neglecting without us asking her. I tried to tell her she didn't have to do all of them, but my wife waved me off and said Hannah's ADHD makes her want to do it. Hannah backed her up. After she cleaned something, my wife would thank Hannah a lot. I thanked her as well, but my wife did it constantly, which seemed strange to me. My wife dismissed my questions and said it was normal to do with people with ADHD. Since then, my wife has pushed all childcare and any household chores I don't do onto Hannah. She has also been increasingly rude to Hannah and yelling at her if she makes a mistake on the first try of doing something. I tried to intervene when I was at home, but my wife would accuse me of wanting to let Hannah lay around the house being lazy because she was retarded. She and I got into a huge fight about her using that word to describe Hannah, and didn't speak for a few days. My breaking point came when I found out my wife had been making Hannah pay her rent and buy baby supplies. I pay all the bills, and the money Hannah had been giving my wife was not going towards the house. My wife was using it to go out with her friends. My wife also made Hannah pay for food. I usually give my wife the money for food, and she bought snacks for herself with Hannah's contribution. I had another fight with my wife, where she said Hannah was lazy, and if she didn't like her rules, then Hannah could sleep on the street and get out of her house. That's when I told my wife it's my house, as she doesn't pay any bills, and at this point doesn't do anything but be as lazy as she accuses Hannah of being. and I would rather live with Hannah. My wife got quiet and has been refusing to talk to me or Hannah for the past few days, and I'm starting to think I crossed a line. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add, I have no romantic/sexual feelings for Hannah. Even if I did, Hannah's lesbian. And even if she weren't, I would not have taken advantage of her by making a move on her while she's dependent on me for housing. Please stop with a comment suggesting I marry Hannah. Edit 2. She was cleared for PPD a few months ago, but due to comments, I will discuss having her screened again. While that was not a nice thing to say, your wife is a horrible person. So horrible that it makes me question whether this is fake. I wish it were. I feel bad for what I said, as it was said in the heat of the moment, but I don't like how she's been treating her sister. It's a huge turnaround from how things were initially, and I don't know why. Your wife is a horrible bully and user, abusing her sister for money and labor. If you don't do anything about it, you're condoning it. Be a responsible person. Do you understand what a huge red flag it is that your wife lied to you and Hannah when she took Hannah's money and kept it for herself? Like, huge. No wonder they never got along. That's because your wife is a twat. Apparently, she is totally comfortable lying to your face, and Hannah's. And she has no problem pretending not to be married. You should grant her that wish. Lying about money is one of the #1 reasons people separate. Not a-hole. Your wife is stealing from you and Hannah. It shows a dishonest character, and people don't tend to be dishonest in only one aspect of their life. I feel like if you start poking around, you're going to find out a lot of surprises about your wife. Yep, she is definitely dishonest. Plus, to add to what you stated, 7 months later and she's still healing and unable to do household chores? What a crock. Unless there were some major surgery related to the birth, which I am sure Opie would have mentioned if there was, then there is no reason why she can't do tasks around the house 7 months later. She is lazy and a liar. Am I the a-hole for outing my ex as gay to get his mother off my back? It's a long and sucky story. But my 25 female soon-to-be ex 28 male is gay and hid that from me. I found out because I caught him cheating, and he as much as admitted that he knew he wasn't attracted to me that way, but he wanted kids and a normal life. I don't care that he's gay, but I will never forgive him for leading me on so he could use me to have kids. So it's over. End of story. The problem is that his family are fundamentalist nutjobs except for a few members, and his mother is the interfering mother-in-law from hell. Not being related to her anymore is another plus to leaving. His family doesn't believe in divorce, so under the guise of picking up some paperwork and other items I had found that were my ex's, she courted me about how I'm being childish, and that marriage is about commitment, forgiveness, and working through problems, etc. It became apparent that my ex didn't tell his family that he cheated. He told his mom that I was divorcing him because we weren't being intimate often enough for me. I tried to be patient and explained that he had cheated, and that's why. I wasn't going to go into greater detail because I know how his parents are, and it's none of their business. Mother-in-law's advice? I kid you not, was that men are just that way. And if I wanted to have intimacy more and for him not to stray, that I should make myself more attractive to my husband and be a better wife. I lost the plot completely. It had been a sad and hard day already, and that was the last straw. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I told her that the only thing that would make me more attractive to my ex would be a sex change operation, and that I hoped he and his boyfriend adopted her some grandchildren so she could finally shut the hell up about it. Not my finest moment, but she just hit the worst and rawest nerve she could have, and I exploded. It's evidently turned into a huge family drama. He's probably going to be disowned, and my ex called sobbing that I've ruined his life out of spite. I don't really know how to feel about it. I do feel bad for him that his parents are such awful people, and there were just no good outcomes for him. But I also feel like he made his own bed here too. Edit. A couple things from comments. 1. There is almost no chance of violence. His family are fundies, but not violent ones. They're more of the Mormon shunning type. One of his cousins came out and left the church, and after the initial protests, they all just stopped talking to him, and basically treated him as if he were dead until he was ready to repent or whatever. They're passive-aggressive, repressed, and weird as all get out, but the chances of anyone physically hurting him are extremely low. He's not financially dependent on them and has a more than decent job, so he can support himself easily if they kick him out. 2. He's known he was gay since before he met me, so this wasn't a new discovery or admission to himself. He has a boyfriend that he's been dating since 6 months before we were married. I went through his computer after catching them in the act and kicking him out, and found messenger logs and other evidence going back to before he started dating me. He literally set this up so he could have the nice Mormon family in the surface to keep his family happy. That's it. Never loved me at all. I was just the first girl to express a sustained interest. Now for the top comments. Probably unpopular opinion, but not a-hole. We got pushed into a corner and blamed for the demise of their relationship, which was ultimately because of his dishonesty. You didn't do it maliciously. Also, he wasted years of your life for selfish reasons, and I personally could never forgive that. Opie was being constantly harassed, blamed, and basically defamed because her ex blamed her for everything. It wasn't malicious to out him, and he should have taken more accountability for his role in all this. The fact he plainly stated that he only married her to have a kid is beyond disturbing. It automatically makes him the a-hole, no question asked. You do not dehumanize a person and treat them as a breeding animal for your own purposes because of your hidden sexuality. Inexcusable. I think this is where I am. All he had to do was tell his family it wasn't working and they made their decision. Instead, he let them drag her to save himself. I think I agree too. This is one of those situations where I could imagine kinder ways for the Opie to have handled the situation, like warning her ex in no uncertain terms to get his family off her back before telling them the truth. And even that is assuming he wouldn't just preemptively make up worse lies about her. But in the real world, I can't really fault her for just defending herself in the moment. It sucks that his family is intolerant, but that's not the Opie's fault. It is also not her fault that she was in a position to feel like she had to defend herself. Her ex put her in that spot by trying to save face at her expense. Not a home. Edited to add, a more controversial take, you could also consider the Opie outing her ex as a huge favor to his next would-be incubator. It is a kind and greater good thing to try not to out a person as it can be physically dangerous, but he also hasn't really earned any kindness from you. He is the a-hole that A, cheated, and then B, lied about the reason why to his parents, leading to his mom harassing you. And is also the a-hole that was planning on essentially tricking you into a lifelong commitment, while he likely would have been cheating the whole time had he not gotten caught now. So yeah, you're not the a-hole. Yeah, he's been cheating on me for the entirety of our relationship. It has a boyfriend he's been with longer than we'd been married. He literally intended to use me for kids and to keep his parents off his tail. And he made me feel like I was the reason we were having bedroom issues in the marriage, when it was him the entire time. See, that's really messed up and kind of emotionally abusive. And I have sympathy for people born into crappy families like that hinder their ability to live out their lives how they want. But he also just sounds like a trashy person regardless. He could have been honest with his parents and taken full accountability saying he cheated, living out with who. Then his mom might not have been harassing you. And people saying you ruined his life over a temporary situation, he would have taken up your whole life with a fake marriage and children, while cheating and manipulating you into thinking there was something wrong with you had he not gotten caught. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my ex's child support? This actually happened last night, but it has been bugging me since it happened. I feel like the a-hole, but I also don't. Long story short, I am separated from my soon-to-be ex-husband. We were together for 10 years, married for 6. We have been separated for about 2 months after it came to light that he was cheating on me with a 19-year-old and broke his 4-year sobriety. We have 2 small children, a 5-year-old and an 11-month-old. I also have an 11-year-old stepdaughter. My ex said his ex-wife's marriage was annulled before I ever came into the picture. For the entire time I was with my husband, he paid $900 a month in child support, sometimes even more. When my oldest was 2 weeks old, he gave his ex $3,000 because she was several months behind on rent and was facing eviction. With my stepdaughter, it was always on us to get her new school clothes, supplies, shoes, etc. because her mother would just forget. Now with my husband just up and abandoning us, it has put me in a financial bind. I am on a fixed income/student stipend. I'd only receive $1,300 a month. I have filed for child support through my state, but who knows when I'll begin receiving it. Last night, out of the blue, his ex messaged me. Apparently, when my husband abandoned us, he stopped paying his child support too. He has not paid for November, nor will probably pay for December either. His ex asked me to pay his back and current child support. She and her new partner have 1 child already, and she is expecting again. She told me how they were counting on that money to catch up on bills/take care of Christmas. I told her no, there is no way I can do that. I have my own 2 children to care for. I am barely surviving as it is.
While my ex is still paying the mortgage, I am responsible for utilities and such. I can't help he has decided to not pay child support. She called me selfish, an a-hole, and accused me of not caring about my stepdaughter, then threatened legal action to make me pay. At that point, I rolled my eyes and stopped responding. Part of me feels bad that I can't help her, because I know my stepdaughter is the one who will suffer. But part of me is like, well, tough luck, because both she and her partner work full-time. I'm a full-time student / stay-at-home mom, who was thrust into single motherhood by my ex having his midlife crisis and just screwing off. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and do not pay. I understand it's an awful situation and you obviously care for your stepdaughter, but you can't provide for a child that is not your responsibility at the expense of your own children's well-being. Your husband's ex is trying to play on your emotions to manipulate you into making a decision that will put your little ones at risk for not being provided for. Don't fall for it. I can't. It just isn't happening. I can't even celebrate Christmas with my kids because every penny must be accounted for and I have bills to pay. I know she's trying to manipulate me, but it isn't happening. Paying child support is your soon-to-be ex-husband's responsibility, not yours. Block his ex so she can't contact you again. Not today, home. That child is not your responsibility. She needs to go after him for not paying the child support, not you. She can't go through the courts for that. That's the thing. If they need the money that bad, I would think she would use her lawyer or what have you to get her money. When my husband left, I applied for government assistance and had to provide his name and details to my caseworker, who did my SNAP/Medicaid interview. Legally, I would think it would be in her best interest to do what she can to get the child support she is owed for my stepdaughter. I cannot help he has decided not to pay. It sucks. I hate it. I'm struggling as it is to make sure my kids are taken care of. I can't take on this responsibility either. Not today, home. You have your own children to support right now. His child with his ex is his responsibility alone. However, it may be best for you to contact legal support and ensure you have no legal obligation due to being married, just to cover your bases. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my brother's wife a neglectful, financially irresponsible wife? My female 32 brother, male 36, had a serious accident in his truck 4 years ago, resulting in him becoming disabled and wheelchair-bound. My sister-in-law, his wife, used to be a stay-at-home wife. She is currently handling his care and are essentially living off his social security benefits payments, which admittedly isn't a lot, but my parents pay for the house's mortgage, so there's enough money to get them by. My sister-in-law and I have never really gotten along, but we stay civil. However, my biggest argument with her happened days ago, when she told us she was going to pursue her old job again, to be able to earn money. My parents and I were confused. We asked how she is going to go back to work when she has my disabled brother to care for. She told us she is going to hire a carer to handle all my brother's needs, which triggered a very negative reaction in me and my parents. I told her she chose to become a stay-at-home wife, but she explained that circumstances changed and she had to go back to work she left years ago to be able to provide for herself and my brother, and a carer is better qualified to care for my brother since she feels overwhelmed and exhausted. But I pointed out how a personal carer requires so much money, and that her new commitment of a job cannot be put before her husband. I told her it was a bad idea, but she argued that she is in this situation, not me, and she's trying to improve it while I'm just judging her from a distance. I told her she was wrong, since this is my brother we're talking about, and I help with the mortgage. So in response, I called her a neglectful, selfish, financially irresponsible wife for throwing money, my brother's money, away on a carer when it's unnecessary, and she is available, but she chose to go back to work. She acted shocked and lashed back at me, saying I shouldn't have called her those cruel things and that I should show some empathy. I said I do have empathy for my brother and her too, but now that she's going to pay a carer using my brother's social security benefit, then I can't help but feel she's slowly checking out of her own marriage. She got highly offended that I questioned her love for my brother now that he's disabled, and left in a rush after calling me nuts and awful. My mom agreed partially with what I said, but told me I went out of line by calling her neglectful, especially since sister-in-law said she's wanting to go back to work to improve her living situation. But my dad is 100% on my side. Was I the a-hole, or was my reaction justified? Now for the judgment. Ooh boy, you're not going to enjoy this comment section. Yes, you're the a-hole. 1. Caregiver burnout is 100% real. Why not give your sister-in-law a break? and you care for your brother for a week while she stays in a hotel. 2, she is probably trying to keep the marriage alive. Caring for somebody with disabilities is a lot like being a parent. It's not sexy. Breaking that dynamic by hiring a carer is probably the single best thing for their relationship. Not to mention increasing your brother's dignity. Did you ask what he thinks of this plan at any point? 3, horrible as it sounds, permanently disabling injuries have a nasty tendency to reduce lifespan. Would you keep supporting your sister-in-law if your brother died? Does she know that? She needs a safety net, which means a job and a pension. Not your marriage, not your business, but to crack out. I actually really want an answer to number 3. If your brother passes away, will the financial support continue for the sister-in-law? If not, get the heck out of here. Also, what about if she hurts herself trying to move her husband? What will Opie do then? My sister messed up her back taking care of mom and she had help. What if she hurts the brother because she's not trained to care for serious disabilities? Hiring someone professionally trained seems like a great thing for the brother, as well as the sister-in-law, especially since the sister-in-law is willing to go back to work to help pay for the caregiver. Everyone is skimming over the fact that it's been 4 years. 4 years without help. God, this woman must be exhausted. Shame on you for judging her, Opie. You should be offering support instead of being such an A. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole on every level, Opie. How is your sister-in-law neglectful for being willing to pay for a medical professional to do something they're trained for? How is she neglectful for trying to add money to your brothers and her household? If you're so worried about them paying for your brother's care, I expect you or your mom to step up and take him in. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for stopping my ex from meeting our son and intentionally sabotaging my dad? My ex ended our engagement unexpectedly and I still don't know why. I was pregnant at a time and he completely disappeared. Nobody would tell me where he was despite our families being friends and having many mutual friends. Everyone kept claiming they had no idea where he was, which I know was a lie. Well, he decided to show his face again. My dad told me he would be coming to our house for dinner to discuss business, and that he wanted to meet our son. At first, I was furious, and I told him there was no way I would let him meet my son. But after many arguments, I pretended to give in. The day he was supposed to come, I took my son to a friend's house for the night. I wasn't planning to go back home for the dinner because I didn't want to see my ex, but my friend suggested I go so that I knew what was being said. I don't regret going, but it was a crap show. My dad was pissed at me for hiding my son from my ex, and my ex was pissed at my dad for not being able to deliver what he promised. My ex was also pissed at me and claimed I couldn't keep him away from his son. I told him pigs would fly before I let him near my son. After my ex left, my dad threatened to kick me out for sabotaging things for the family. But he kept calling me a stupid girl and asking me why I couldn't just listen to him for once. My brother sided with him too, which surprised me because he always takes my side normally. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole and get away from these crazy people as soon as you can. My God, the fact that your family knew where he was and wouldn't tell you? And that your father let him into your house after he abandoned you with a baby? No. And to add, the way this reads to me is that the grandfather, brother, and ex are using the baby as some sort of bargaining chip. It's odd how the grandfather phrased it and why he's even involved. This should only be between the two parents of the child, not the grandfather and Opie's brother. I think something more is going on. This is exactly how it reads to me. Why did your dad promise to your ex he could see your son? It sounds like your ex has been out of your child's life for years and suddenly wants to see him. It is very concerning your dad promised your ex could see your son in exchange for something, it sounds like. This is fishy. Your child is not a token to be promised in exchange for something. Info, did your ex know you were pregnant before he left? How long has your ex been gone? Also, what is the relationship between your ex and dad? Yes, almost 3 years. I assumed none, but my dad does business with his dad.